So being plant-based has been an advantage to being a bikini bodybuilder because I feel like I'm always glowing and energetic. Was it the aura or something? Someone said once before.
Hello, welcome everyone to my show. I am your host, Nimai Delgado, and today's episode is a very special guest. Her name is Crissi Carvhalo. Crissi is from Australia. She is a international masters bikini athlete, Australian ninja warrior, online health and fitness prep coach, author, and mother. She started in the fitness industry at the age of 16 and spent 12 years as a personal trainer teaching aerobics and competing in both sport aerobics and fitness model comps. In her mid-30s, she decided to make some radical changes in her personal lifestyle and decided to help educate others on the benefits of plant-based eating. These days, Crissi is still competing and actually 1 week away from her IFBB Pro qualifying competition. If she succeeds, which I'm sure she will, she will join a handful of others who have managed to accomplish such a difficult feat while being 100% plant-based.
That's correct. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to have you on. You and I have been in a similar space for quite some time. And we haven't ever met until last week.
Yeah, in the gym.
In the gym, of all places.
Yeah.
I saw you stretching and I was like, she looks familiar. And then I was like, I don't know where I know her from. And then you walked up to me and we started chatting and I was so glad that you did.
I know. I've been envious of a few of you vegans training at Gold's. Gold's is we all know it's a mecca, but it's somewhere that I grew up reading all the muscle fitness magazines, and it's an awesome gym, good vibe.
Yeah, yeah. There's no other place like it for sure.
No,
it's one of a kind. And if you are someone who loves fitness and has been in the fitness industry, you know about Gold's.
Exactly.
And you've been in the fitness industry for quite some time.
Yeah, I started lifting weights at about 14 and was one of the first certified trainers, aerobic instructors in Australia at 16.
Wow.
And so I'm 48 now. So it's a lot of years, yeah. I've been in and out of the industry, but I've always trained.
Yeah. So I did a little research based off your bio. Hopefully I got everything correct.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Okay, good. Because you have quite a resume. Like compared to most people, you have a very extensive resume.
Yeah, I've never stopped
really
even whilst raising my children. So yeah.
So how did that journey begin? What made you get into fitness at 16 or 14?
I guess body dysmorphia as a teenager. I remember doing yogurt diets where I'd eat a big tub of yogurt and that would be all I was allowed to have for the day.
Wow.
So I mean, and that's going back in the 80s. So there was it's something that's always going to happen. Teenagers always going to feel like that about themselves. So I decided to put that into into a healthier way of learning about nutrition and fitness back, and so I made that my lifestyle. My mother didn't really approve. She said, "What sort of career is that for a 40-year-old?" And in fact, I become successful in my 40s. Yeah. I didn't stop. I became successful vegan fitness model in my 40s. So yeah. I'm glad I didn't listen.
Yeah, no, I think that's a common theme for many teenagers, especially when there is so much pressure around the beauty standards and the male gaze of what the expectations are of what a woman should look like or how beautiful they are based off of what they look like.
And we only had magazines. Yeah. Now it's 1,000 times harder with social media. So yeah, it's definitely problematic, but we can always channel that into something more positive, I think.
Yeah, I think that the more people that come out and just talk about it honestly, that they've also struggled with it or had some degree of body dysmorphia, eating disorder, just trouble with their own self-image. And even if they have perceivably like a beautiful image compared to other people, nobody knows what's going on the inside and what struggles we're all experiencing individually, I think that brings more awareness to it
Exactly.
and more availability to talk about these types of things.
Yes, yes. I agree. It's uh yeah, definitely something that's being on the other side now,
Hmm.
going through all of that. I guess now I'm on the other side where I'd like to be able to share my journey to be able to help the youth create a better, not just a self-image, but work on the inside,
Hmm.
because it really comes from the inside out. You can't make the outside look good if the inside's falling apart.
Mm.
So, yeah.
So how did that start for you? How did you begin working on the inside? Because I assume starting at 14 and then being a personal trainer, you probably stayed in shape throughout your entire life.
I did. I had my children quite young. My first son, he's 26 now. I had at 21. And I guess uh, through that time, I was still competing and coaching, choreographing in aerobics and weight training. Um, uh, Looking good made me feel good. So I guess it wasn't as a big a problem because that was
Hmm.
second priority to my children. But I think I decided more so in my mid-30s with a cancer scare that I started looking at what I was putting into my body, and that being able-bodied was more important than being physically attractive, I guess, because I lost a really good friend at 38 to brain tumor, and
Mm.
both of us were always, on some sort of diet in our 30s. And if we had an event, we'd go on a crash diet, exercise hard, just to look good for that particular event. And whilst we were self confident, it was still always about image.
Mhm.
And so losing her at such a young age, I always then thought, I don't want to die beautiful. And so I want to live. And so in her memory, I started researching about plant-based nutrition and detoxification, and that led me to veganism. So
Mm.
once I think I opened um, my awareness of what I was putting into my body, I then realized that being vegan was something I was always, and an animal lover that I was always going to innately be. But if I was going to be a vegan, I would be plant based
Mhm.
because health was paramount for me. And going down that road and realizing how amazing I could feel, because we all feel like our diet at the time, we feel amazing.
Mhm.
But it's not until you change that you go, wow, this is how good I feel
Mhm.
now. And when you feel good, you look good, you perform better. And then that got me, I'd been out of the fitness industry for maybe 9, 10 years. And I felt so good that I thought, imagine if I was doing this back when I used to be in the fitness industry and I competed as an omnivore in my 20s and I hated it. And I thought, I'm gonna do a competition and see if I can get enough protein. Because 9, 10 years ago, there was only one or two vegans that out there, and two women that I knew that had competed. And one was a raw and one vegan, and she didn't have a lot of muscle. And the other one was high protein. And so a lot of seitan, and I didn't really want to go that way because I
Mhm.
had gone vegan for health reasons.
Mhm.
And so that's how my journey started as a whole food plant-based competitor.
Mhm.
And I was winning against 20-year-olds at
Mhm.
40. So, yeah, that's when I thought I need to tell the world about this. And I need to not so much tell, show,
Mhm.
because when you talk about veganism to people, they shut down straight away. But if they can go, you're 40 and I'm close to 50 now, and I'm still competitive against the 20-year-olds. So inspire change by doing and saying less, I guess I've done over the years.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love that story, and thank you so much for sharing. I think that there always is that pivotal moment in our lives where we decide to make some type of massive change,
Yeah.
whether it is inspired by a conversation or the loss of a loved one or an article or maybe even a social media post, you never know what can be the change, the perspective shift that you experience that sends you on a completely different
I
trajectory
know.
in life.
I
So
know.
it's really cool to hear how you decided to prioritize and reevaluate what you were consuming and how that was going to affect not only your short-term health and the way that you looked, but your longevity, and
Yes. Yeah.
then apply that towards your previous career as a fitness competitor and
Yes.
see the difference because you did both.
Well, that's right. I mean, when I had gone vegan, I was an interior designer, and so I decided. And then we had the global financial crisis, and I had to start from square one again. And so, being vegan at that time, decided, oh, well, I'll go back into the fitness industry and see how I go being vegan in the
Mm.
fitness industry, because the number one question, as you know, is always, where do you get your protein? And I even thought after 10 years of being doing this, I'd stop getting that question, but it's still
Think again.
there. And yeah, so it's been a
Mhm.
great journey.
So how was that first show preparing as a vegan?
It was a bit of an experiment because I had already done a few shows as an omnivore, and it was the usual, high protein, lower carbs, not no carbs like the keto. It was lower carbs and no sugars, and fats were relatively low back then as well. And I hated it. I struggled a lot in my 20s doing those shows, but so when coming to this, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to stick just to whole foods. I'm not going to supplement because I want to see what my body can do with just foods. I didn't even have protein powder in the first one. And so I was trying to get all the high protein foods that were whole foods. So I had no seitan. We didn't have any in Australia back then. And buying gluten flour and making it wasn't even a thing. And so I found it really good because I had a lot of energy. I had a lot of carbs still in my diet. So I didn't go raw, and I didn't go, so I wasn't completely high carb, and I didn't go high protein either. So I kept my macros pretty much around what McDougall and a lot of those doctors actually, the books that I was reading at that time. And weight just dropped off doing whole foods. And so over the years, I've experimented a little bit more with different ratios of macros. I've come up with some really good, I basically eat more higher carb, moderate protein, and lower fats.
Okay. So if we were to put percentages, the first show, you were more like 80-10-10, like 80 or like 10% of your calories coming from protein, or 10 to 15.
Yeah,
maybe?
so I did a show that was 80-10-10, but I lost muscle. It wasn't enough protein. And so then I started adding a little bit more protein. So I never go under 80 for my size, around 50 to 55 kilos. And I never go under 80 or 80 grams to 100 grams of protein a day. So I would change my carb and my fat macros around depending on my calories for competing, because they tend to change through a prep as well. But generally off season, I'm eating between 60 to 80 grams of protein a day, and I don't lose muscle.
Yeah, so you're not as concerned about focusing on protein on the off season.
No,
Yeah.
no. I live just a normal life off season. I don't do any bulks. I'm just training and trying to hit my best all the time.
Wow, it's so crazy how similar you and our strategies are.
It's a lifestyle.
It is.
If you can't maintain it, then why do it? I think the industry, and this is not just vegan related, because I've been in it for so long, these bulker, whenever I see someone saying they're bulking, it's just an excuse to overeat as far as I'm concerned. unless you're one of the big guns, the Olympias, but
Mhm.
a lot of them still keep lean off season,
Mhm.
Of course, they eat a lot more, but they're still doing a lot as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember when I did my first show, I was only vegan for around 8 or 9 weeks, and I was vegetarian before that,
Yeah,
and then I decided to cut out all dairy, and that was my primary source of protein at the time because
right.
it was Greek yogurt, it was cottage cheese, it was whey protein, and
And even if you stayed vegetarian, you have to cut out the dairy products,
yeah,
pretty much.
yeah.
So
Well, I didn't realize at the time, like you were saying, you think you feel good with the diet that you're consuming, and
yeah,
then you make some changes and you notice how much better you can feel with that,
hmm
or with, modify it a little bit. And for me, that was just eliminating the dairy products. So I had to figure out how to do my first prep as a vegan
without those,
without those, and also just learn how to live my lifestyle as a vegan for the first time. And it was surprisingly pretty easy. And my macros and calorie targets were pretty similar to what you just said. So my protein targets was around 20% of my calories, which
yeah,
is fairly easy to do on a fully plant-based diet. But I was supplementing with plant-based protein powder at the time
yeah,
too,
I
just
do now.
for convenience.
Yeah,
Because
and it tastes great,
yeah,
So
I'm sure that you also realize your first show, like, this is a lot of food. If you're gonna go whole food plant-based and try to go high protein and fit
yeah.
your macros into a certain template or formula, then protein powders can be really convenient because it's a lot of food.
Well, 9 years ago, there was hardly any good. There were no vegan protein powders, put it that
Mhm,
way. The only one I could get was Sprouted Brown Rice Protein.
mhm,
We had one of those new bulk food stores that opened up, and there's no flavor.
mhm.
It's gross,
It
and it
is.
was like so. Now I absolutely love my protein powder. I sprinkle it. I put it in my coffee. I sprinkle it on my food, on my fruit, but my oats in the morning.
Mhm,
It's so, and there's a lot of really good ones out there now.
mhm.
So it's more of a delicacy, I guess, in a
Yeah,
prep.
it's like an indulgence, like, you can eat it, it tastes great, and it's great for you, and,
Exactly.
um, I would love to hear how, your what was some of your lessons that you learned being a competitor from early on, and then taking a break and then coming back with your own personal evolution? Did you approach the stage differently? Did you notice anything differently about yourself after you did your shows? Because I always talk to different competitors in the sport, male and female, and the male competitors always, we have some collateral damage, I would say, from competing. You see yourself as this most ideal physique, as low body fat and as muscular as you could possibly be. And then anything beyond that, like, that's your new standard. So now you're comparing
Yeah.
yourself to that version of yourself constantly. And for women, there seems to be even more pressure to maintain such a standard. And if you don't have that strong sense of self and confidence, that it's very easy to fall into the trap of comparison. I mean, it is a sport about comparison.
Yes. Yes.
So how
Yeah.
did you
And
find that
judgment.
journey? Yeah, so how did you handle that?
Um, I guess in my 20s when I competed, I had it had caused so many problems, more around eating, that bodybuilding was something I never wanted to do again. Because all I would kept on doing in my 20s, even after my shows, would be, when's my next meal? When's my next
Mhm,
meal? And I used to think, will I ever stop thinking about my next meal? And so that was probably one of the bad things I took away from bodybuilding back then. Coming back into the sport this time around, because it was always about inner health first, then my external. I never cheated myself. So I never binged or purged, which I have a lot of clients and people that I know that do that sort of thing, whether they're in this sport or not. And those issues can't be rectified with aesthetics.
mhm,
They're a mental thing. So coming back into the sport, I have wisdom in my 40s. I have self-worth, and health was paramount. I mean, I had a cancer scare at 36, So what I look on the outside was just a bonus. And so tackling, and I do this with my clients too, tackling that with them, that if the inside is good, and that is the whole internal self, the mind itself, then the outside are the bonus. So now coming into my comp this week, mentally, am I happy where I am? I wanted more. I wanted to be maybe a bit leaner and aesthetically a little bit different. However, I've given it 110%, and I have so much energy. I feel good, and I'm hitting personal best still in the gym. So that's my trophy already. So whatever happens on the stage is going to be the icing on the cake, so to speak. So because it's a natural competition, one of the first natural competitions for the IFBB. So coming up to that now, I already feel like I'm a winner because I haven't cheated my body with any drugs or, I'm not starving or anything. So,
Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment because anybody who's ever done a show or even considered doing a show, you don't really know what you're getting into the first time
It's
around.
tough.
And it requires such a level of discipline and such a level of commitment to where you become so hyper-focused and you have to be selfish and you isolate yourself. It's a very isolating sport to where
Very.
you live in your own echo chamber inside your head and you
So-
become obsessive with food and training and how lean you are, and it can become
Yes.
very self-destructive over time. So after you do your first one and you have this freedom of whatever you can eat and then you just go hard, you're like, I'm going to eat that. I'm going to eat that. You start fantasizing and
Yes.
glamorizing all these foods that you wish to eat. And then this cycle happens where you feel guilty about the food that you just ate and you become obsessive about, if I eat this, I'm going to lose this tiny bit of definition that I may have been working so hard to hold on to. So
That's
just for a
right.
preface, if anybody out there has done a show or thinking about doing a show, there's a lot that goes into it that's not talked about, which is why I love talking about it on these shows, because even on the
Yes.
other podcasts where I've heard fitness professionals and IFBB pros talk about competing, they leave this part out.
They do. And that's why we have a thing called, for those that haven't competed, reverse dieting. And while it's kind of needed for the majority of competitors, guys or girls, I don't like to do it so much with my clients. And the main reason is because the whole time I'm prepping a client for a competition or even just for a goal, if they want to lose 10 pounds or whatever they sign up for, I try to teach them intuitive eating. And so once or twice a week, they get a treat meal. I call them love meals. And the reason I call them love meals is because they need to be loving to the body, so healthy. Eat them with loved ones and eat what you love, And so that way there's a positive outlook on it. And so if it's going to be loving to the body, it doesn't mean you're going to eat, McDonald's, because that's not loving to the body. You're not going to overeat either because that's not loving to the body. So I try to, along the way, and that's what I do in my prep too, to try to do all the good things to the body. So then after the show, and even on show day and the night before, I have pizza. So I already had my little bit of a splurge. That helps me get a little bit tighter for the day. And sometimes I'm eating pizza before I even go on stage, or a chocolate brownie. And other women are at the back saying, "Oh my God, if I ate that, it would go straight to my thighs." I literally had a lady say that to me once. And I said, "Do you know how the body works? You can't go from in here to there straight away." So by the time I get off stage, I don't even have that, "Oh my God, I need to eat that." So some of it is education, some of it's experience. But again, I do that what's loving to the body. And everything changes when you look at your body that way. And so that's what I try to teach my clients. So there isn't really a need to reverse diet after it. And generally after a comp, everything stops for people. They stop training. They stop doing cardio. They eat what they want. So within a week, they can put on 5-10 kilos.
Yeah.
And that is not good for the body, because our stomach shrinks, everything, is used to doing restrictive eating for months. And then all of a sudden, bam.
You're like a sponge.
And not the healthy stuff either.
Yeah.
So if we could do a binge on whole food plants, there'd be only so much you could eat, right?
Yeah. And this is so, I love what you said about the love meals, because I use a similar language around when I coach people.
Yeah.
It's always one of the first questions that comes up when they start a program. When can I have my first cheat meal? And when can we go for pizza? And I'm like, look, if you want that, just go for it.
Yeah.
Like incorporate it into your weekly schedule, but don't deprive yourself of it to where you end up fantasizing about it and then splurging on it and then feeling guilty, and then this cycle happens because
big cycle.
And even calling it a cheat meal, even the language around cheating means that it's out of integrity. It is out of commitment. It is something that you are not supposed to be doing, which then inherently creates this feeling of guilt just by using the word cheat. By reframing that and calling it something like a love meal, then you're nurturing your body. You're not damaging it.
And I think the word cheat too, there's people don't realize is that when we have a bad day, we want to punish ourselves even more. We want to hurt ourselves if we're not feeling good in life. So we eat that type of food to make us feel a bit more victim orientated, if you want to call it that, and so. And having a love meal with loved ones is a really good thing, because a lot of people do those bad behaviors on their own.
In the dark.
Yeah. So again, if you plan your meal out, you become in a comp prep or in a diet phase, you become more social. So you go out and have that meal rather than have it just at home by yourself. So I generally will try to have a date or see some friends, and that will be my love meal for the week. So I'm still going out meeting people, but enjoying my prep as well. So
I love that. Language is such a powerful tool, and it shapes or it reveals what our internal world or what we are experiencing. It is like the wardrobe for what's going on in the inside. It's what allows people to understand what's happening. And if you listen closely to what people say, they reveal a lot.
That's right.
And whenever you're a coach like we are, and you deal with many, many clients, you can listen to the key words that people use around food and their self-talk, particularly, that can be the limiting belief that is preventing them from reaching a certain goal.
Yeah.
So I had this conversation with a friend the other day, and he said, Nimai, I've been counting macros and obsessively monitoring what I eat for the past 4 years, because whenever I don't, I'll overeat and put on weight.
Oh, wow.
And he says, what can I do to be more intuitive? Because I see you eating whatever you want and incorporating these really decadent meals that look delicious and doesn't look like you're prepping them or like you're eating out, and enjoying yourself. He says, what can I do to get more to that level? And I said, well, just based off of what you just told me, you believe that if you stop, you're going to automatically put on weight. And you've been repeating that story to yourself for years now. So your body hears every time you tell yourself that story. So if you believe that the food that you're eating off prep is going to negatively affect you, then it will.
That's true.
So if you can reframe that, and I love affirmations, I really incorporate them into my life as much as I can. If you reframe it to say something more along the lines of, I can eat whatever I want and still maintain a healthy body composition, or still maintain a healthy body fat, or I can eat whatever I want and my body will turn it into muscle. I think that way, and it works. And he immediately got it. And he was like, wow, I'm going to start using this today.
Yeah. And that's really unusual coming from a guy like with counting.
Yeah.
Normally they're wanting to put on weight rather than the opposite. But it's true. Your body does hear everything. And so that self-talk really has to be positive about ourselves, because if we're not positive on ourselves, then it's not going to come to us from any other outer source as well. That's true.
I would love to hear, just shifting gears a little bit, because we spoke earlier before this podcast. Bianca walked in, and Bianca is recovering from her explant procedure that she had a little over a week ago. And you also had a similar procedure done a while back.
Yes.
So I would love to hear your journey from deciding to do something like getting implants and then making the decision to remove them, and what that whole process is like, because I feel like as men, or as a guy, we don't even consider that kind of pressure that women may feel to modify themselves for the male gaze, and particularly in the fitness realm, because
that's right.
There is this story, this belief that in order to be successful as a fitness model or a bikini competitor, you have to have breast implants if you don't already have natural breasts.
Well, I'm a little bit unusual because I grew up in an era where breast implants weren't a thing in the fitness industry. I got them once I left the fitness industry at 31, 32, mainly because I'd gone through a marriage breakup, or a long marriage, and I was a little unhappy. So once I got my implants, I didn't even like them. Then I decided, when I decided to start competing, I had a lot of clients as well asking, do we need to have implants to be able to succeed in bikini model or any fitness bodybuilding competition? And I have judged before, and it really, for a female on stage, it can give the right symmetry. And so therefore, it is of a benefit to be on stage. However, if the proportions are right on a body, I necessarily don't think it matters. And this is what this comp is going to be quite important for me, because a lot of people compete, realize that they want or they need implants, and then they get them, and then they go pro or they do better. But was it because they're already now more experienced at competing, or is it because of the implants, And so doing it around the other way, I've been competing nonstop for 6-7 years with implants. This will be my first show without implants. And looking in the mirror with my bikinis on, I think I got it. I don't think you need to have implants, but we'll see. I'm really interested to see how I present on stage without the implants this time around as well. So I had them for 12 years, and it's been about 2.5 years now since I took them out. And I like my body much more now, besides a little bit of scarring, but that's fading, than I did before. So it does change your perception of what beauty is when you go through these different transformations. I actually feel more body confident and comfortable with what I look like now post explant than I did with my implants. So a lot of girls get them because they think they're going to be get more attention, look better, but that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, how can we help educate and inspire more men and women, but particularly women, because they're under much more pressure than men, I feel, to make that decision more informed? Because I can think of, off the top of my head, many of previous girlfriends and just friends that were women that I knew that decided to get implants because of a boyfriend or because of some comment somebody said at one point in middle school.
Yeah.
And those types of memories, they carry with them. And this is a big decision to go under the knife.
Yeah, and it's a big decision to go under the knife to put implants in, but amazingly, it's even bigger decision to take them out because it's. I was single both times, pretty much getting them in and out. And so the difference in both of those times, because when you have a partner, you're always going to be loved. When you're single, it's one of those things where you go, am I going to be less sexually attractive now, or is somebody going to be a boob person, and those sort of things. And I think I'm at a stage where I really don't care what someone else likes. And so I like the way I look now, and that gives me more confidence, which is much more attractive anyway. So yeah, I think by being a really good role model and carrying yourself well, that's more important than putting implants in, or across the board with anything, with any of the aesthetic things we can do with fillers, Botox and all those sort of things. You cannot make yourself feel better for those. Maybe for you might like doing those, but if everything else is falling down around you, then those things aren't going to make life happier, so to speak. So I think analysing why you want to get something first before you step into that.
Yeah, what is the real reason behind a decision like that? Is it coming from a place of fullness and wholeness, or coming
and
from
that's
a
why
place
I
of
got
lack?
my explant. A lot of people are getting autoimmune disease from disorders from implants. The body's attacking the foreign object. I took mine out mainly because it wasn't aligned with my new lifestyle, being all healthy and thinking about the inner terrain, not just the external. I thought, how I'm getting them out. They don't align with who I am now. So we do change as people as well, and generally we change for the better through wisdom. And I think that's, again, through education and being an older woman now. And I feel that's my place to be able to show the younger women that I've been through these and these areas of life, and look at me now, I'm still thriving a lot more than I did with all those things before. Yeah.
And do you feel being plant-based help you with the recovery process? Because witnessing Bianca's recovery process has given me a very intimate look at what it's like. And I think that, having a healthy body going into a procedure like that is paramount, but also the foods and the strategy for healing such an intense procedure afterwards, and the aftercare is also just as important for your recovery, your body's inflammation, all the swelling, everything that you experience. So how do you feel being plant-based helped you there?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And key word, plant-based, not so much vegan, because sometimes vegan, there's a lot of really bad foods out there. So definitely being plant-based. I think I was already walking a few days after the operation, and I felt really quite good, but very sore still. So I knew, again, my energy levels were high. I still had to rest a little bit. So definitely eating a nutritious diet leading into the operation, because the doctor wanted to give me all these supplements, and I said, oh no, I get that through my diet. And and then coming out of it for sure.
And how do you feel like now going into this is your first one, right?
Post-explant. Yes.
Yeah. So has your nutrition changed at all because of that, or are you still kind of following the more intuitive approach just leading up to this show? I'm curious.
Well, I count my macros and calories, and I have a deficit that I have to hit every day as far as my dietary goes. Everything is whole food plant-based. I do put a little bit of seitan in, which is a gluten, mainly because here in America you have so much options. It's amazing. And I like a real variety in my diet. But funny enough, I've been prepping for this show for about 3 months. I only brought scales a month ago. So I was doing everything by eye. And since I've been weighing on the scales, I think I've slowed down with the fat loss. So my intuitive way of looking at how much food I should be eating now I've been doing it for so long, you'd be the same. You kind of know what 150 grams of rice is or something like that. So that's what I've been doing. I mean, that's enough in that meal prep container and so forth. But yeah, I think that the coming into this has been the whole prep here in America, because I have prepped abroad, traveling, looking for a car to buy, looking for an apartment. It's been a tough juggle doing this prep, but overall, I don't think I would have been able to get to where I am now if I was still eating more inflammatory foods, for sure.
So if you don't mind, what is your weekly or daily nutrition plan look like today? Like, what are you going to eat? This is because we're 1 week out before, less than a week before the show.
So this is called peak week.
Yeah.
I do a semi-peak week now. I used to do it a lot more strict, but I realized that over time that my body likes consistency. If I change anything too quickly, then it'll either hold water and vice versa. So or I'll just feel bad. And doing bikini, a lot of people say bikini because we're a lot smaller competitors, that we don't have to do a lot, but we have to make sure that we haven't got dry skin, that all these sorts of things, that we don't have eye bags, because beauty is a big component. Not sure of this competition, but sometimes it's 50% of the score. So if you've got dry skin, bags under your eyes, you're looking tired, looking flat, that's half your points. So it doesn't matter sometimes how good your body is. If you're looking like you've just rolled out of bed, you're not going to. So being plant-based has been an advantage to being a bikini bodybuilder, because I feel like I'm always glowing and energetic. Was it the aura or something? Someone said once before. So again, so with that is saying that I don't change much. I have oats in the morning, and with some cacao nibs, some maca, berries generally of whatever sort. I ran out of berries, so I had pomegranate today in there, and I've taken out my rice for the next 2 days. But normally I'll have rice, some beans, or some seitan. Do you say seitan here?
We say seitan.
Seitan. Yeah. Everywhere says it a bit different. Black beans are always my choice. And what else? Or tempeh. Tempeh here in America is amazing. Yeah. In Australia, it's a little bit funky tasting. So, but I still eat it. I still don't mind it. And then I have so because I'm not having rice now, I'll have more greens. So I'm having broccoli. I'll change that tonight to more asparagus, so I'm not holding as much fiber in my intestinal tract, and maybe not as gassy. Maybe so asparagus is also a little bit of a diuretic. So we're starting to think about dropping excess water and so forth this week. So I have that pretty much for lunch and dinner, and I'm still having Starbucks soy lattes. That is my happiness of the day. I had one first thing this morning driving to the gym. Yes, yeah. And people go, oh, my God, you don't have to have black coffee. And I said, I'm having soy in my coffee. It's no difference to eating tofu. And the tofu in America is – we have a nicer tofu in Australia. It's more – yeah, it's harder pressed. I've brought the firm one here and it's still sloppy. So I've been eating more tempeh here. Okay. So if you don't like tofu, check out the brand that you're using or the country.
I'll have to show you the one I use and get your opinion on it.
Okay, great.
Because the one I use is super firm as well.
Oh, good.
And it's not mushy at all.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I think it's the ones in the water that you're supposed to dry press those.
Yeah,
and
I don't get those anymore.
No. And I've been looking for more firm pressed ones, but some have sauces on them. So I'm cutting out sauces because of the sodium this week. But yeah, my diet is a real normal plant-based diet. So oats and fruit in the morning, and so beans, rice, and some salad during the day. Think poke bowls, burrito bowls. That's pretty much what my clients will have as well. And I don't go crazy. I don't cut out carbs, but I do have no refined oils on in my whole diet. Even off season, I'll go out, and when I have a meal out, I'll have some fried chips. but I don't have olive oils or MCT oils or any of those oils. I get all my fats from when I say that, people jump to a conclusion that I have no fat diet. And I said, no, I have fibrous fats. So fibrous fats being avocado and tahini. I don't eat very many nuts because I'd probably go over the top eating those. And so I get all my fats from foods that are still intact.
I'm like the same. Everything you just said, even whenever I was competing. I mean, my diet's not much different.
This is why we
now.
have longevity, you know?
Yeah.
This is
why it's a lifestyle. It's not
it is a lifestyle. Yeah.
You said earlier that you think that plant-based eating is a competitive advantage for bodybuilding, which is it's so true, but it's ironic because most of the people that are in bodybuilding will do anything under the sun to get a competitive advantage except go vegan.
I know.
Or except try a plant-based diet.
Well, this has been my longest prep for a show because I let loose a little bit over COVID and had a few too many cocktails early this year when we got to go out again. And so I started at my highest body fat, which was around about 24%, which is an average female. So it's not high. But through my competing career since 40, and I've competed season A and B, which is all year round, and done around 30 shows in that 6-year period. Wow. And so a lot of people, I actually applied to the Guinness Book of Records to be able to have the person that did the most shows in a small amount of time, but I didn't hear back from them. Maybe because I was vegan. But but I was like, no one that I know will compete, back-to-back shows for 6 years. And so that's what I did. And I'm talking, I've competed at Arnold's in Spain, Hong Kong, in Ohio, in America. And I really just kept lean all the time. And when I say lean, anywhere between 16 to 18%. And that's the average body fat percent for an athletic female, bodybuilder or not. So when I needed to do a show, I only had to diet for 4 to 6 weeks to get down to 12%, 10%. And so, and that's kind of like my sweet spot is to be on stage. So going to this time round, starting at 24% trying to get down to 10%, dieting for over 3, nearly 4 months is, for me, has, while it's been easy, it just feels like I've been dieting all year. So I like to keep lean off season. So then when I'm ready for a show or I find a show, it's only a few weeks of dieting. And plant-based is definitely an easy way to be able to keep your physique intact all year round. So it's not so much going on a deficit is a stressor for our bodies. So the stricter and longer you got to go, the less your body is going to respond over time. And people always say, oh, I'm plateauing out. And I say, I don't know if it's a plateau.
You're burning out.
Exactly. So that's what it is.
So in my career, I started in 2015 and then competed till mid 2018. So I did it for 3 years and did, I think, 11 or 12 shows. So I was very similar to you. I was competing 3-4 times a year back to back and just staying really relatively lean and slowly gaining.
No male bodybuilder would ever be able to do that. Well, not many.
There are guys that do it, but it's very taxing on their bodies. And I feel like you were saying, like, it never felt very difficult for me because I was always feeling good. Like show preps for me were never destructive in a way where
were you eating the same foods you'd normally eat?
So I would eat the same foods, but just manage the portion sizes and had more discipline there. So just naturally by being more aware of how much I was eating, the weight would come off and I would just get leaner and leaner and leaner. And my show preps were 4 to 6 weeks every time. I never really went longer than that. Except for the first one that I did. And then the last show that I did, it was all intuitive as well. I made it a point. I was like, I'm tired of measuring. I'm just going to do a 4-week prep for my last show and see if I can step on stage without measuring a single thing. And I did it.
And you did it.
And it was a great show and I was happy with the way I looked. And ever since then, that's how I haven't tracked a macro since. It's been 3 over 3 years
I know.
now.
So it's a crazy question when people say, like, even just today, someone said, like, what are your macros? How many calories you're eating? And whilst I know, I tend to not share those with people because when I'm not competing, I don't track anything ever. I just know in my mind how much protein I would be eating, how much fats I would be eating, and because that tracking can send you a bit crazy. And I have a lot of clients that don't want to track, but I tell them that if you've never done it, it's a really good exercise to do. So you start understanding foods. You start understanding because some of my clients have put on weight and they eat 2 meals a day. And I say, what do you eat a day? You know, before I give them their diet plans, I like to know what they like to eat and what they're eating. And I had one client, super healthy client, but she was overweight. And her smoothie in the morning was literally 1,500 calories. And I am not kidding, 70% fat. Because there were nuts, there was a whole avocado in a smoothie. But she was like, oh, how can that be making me put on weight? It's healthy. And so I said, well, start tracking. So everything you put in your smoothie, you'll start realizing that it's calorie dense, you know, and that's a form of education. It's not saying don't eat those things. It's just that pull back on maybe put a tablespoon of avocado rather than a whole avocado. So
I have the exact same approach with my clients too.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you say that because it's people don't know what they don't know. You might be consuming too little, you might be consuming too much. And just by logging, you don't have to change anything. This is a great exercise for anybody that wants to understand how much they're eating. It's just don't change anything. Just put it all into a food logger, whether it's Chronometer or MyFitnessPal, for a week and see what your average daily intake is, and then see how close that is or aligned to whatever goal you may have.
Yeah.
You might only have to do a slight adjustment, or you might have to do just some swaps here and there that can get you closer to your target. But it's similar to sports. You know, it's repetition. It's I forget who it was. Maybe it was Jordan or Kobe. They talk about how many practice drills they would do just over and over and over and over and over again. And then they did that so that when they got to the court and it was game time, they had complete freedom. They didn't have to, be, or just follow the drill. It was complete freedom because they had an understanding of all of their movement and they had the flexibility to create. And that's exactly what intuitive eating is once you have an understanding of the foods and the nutrients and the calories, then you can play with it however you want.
That's right.
And become much more intuitive. And it never feels like you're tracking or dieting. It's just a way of life at that point.
Exactly. And I think that's where we've got to. So somebody coming into this lifestyle, if they do exactly what you said, just track your own food for a week. Most people might not even need to hire us as coaches. They might be able to exactly see where they're going wrong, and oh my God, I didn't realize. Like I say to people, I love avocado. But even when I go out and get an avocado on a smashed avocado on toast, sometimes I will take half of what they put on off, even though I want to eat it, but I'm not going to enjoy that extra bit. So I give it to whoever I'm with, because if you think of avocado as the same as butter or margarine, because that's how calorie dense it is. So while it's really good food, maybe we're eating too much nuts, seeds, avocado, and those high calorie foods. And nobody ever looks at their external self and goes, well, this is good fat on me, because when we eat it, we're always like, this is good fats. And I'm like, yeah, well, this is good fats then now. Like, so no one looks at it on the outside of their body and says, this is good fats, because that's a big question I always get from people is like, but these are good fats, Crissi. I can't have avocado. And I'm like, you can, but a tablespoon, 20 grams, 30 grams. And that's all your body needs, et cetera. So.
Yeah. So this show that is this weekend.
Yeah.
What's next? This is like a milestone. I remember us talking in the gym.
Yeah.
And you said this one is like
I don't know what's next for me. My universe is opened. Australia is closed. I can't fly home at the moment. And I've been in LA now for 3-4 months and extending month by month. So I'd love America to embrace me and keep me here, but I need to move on until I get a more permanent visa. But as far as career-wise, I don't know. It depends what happens with this show, and what shows will lead up after that. But I do want to share more knowledge on anti-aging type of things that we can do for our bodies, because people always ask me what's my secret. And and it's a combination. I have good genetics. I've always lived relatively a healthy lifestyle, even back in the day when I was eating animal meats. I still was always, not fond of going out and eating and those sort of things. But exercise, of course, always exercised. But yeah, I've found some little really good wisdom, a little nuggets of wisdom from centurions and that over the years that I would like to share a little bit more that I implement in my life, which I think has really helped keep me more younger and vibrant, leading to my 50s now.
What are some of those nuggets of wisdom from the centurions that you spoke to? I'm curious.
Yeah, I guess positive thoughts is one. And don't sweat the small stuff. There's some things and I sometimes still find myself fall back into those sort of things. But definitely like stress is a massive one, which we all know. I do things like talking about internal health. So I usually fast for a week once a year, and that just resets everything again. I do things like colonics and enemas. I use a sauna. I am in the sunshine every day. I have been a sun worshipper since I was very young, and back in the day, people used to say to me, "You're going to be an old leathery woman by the time you're in your 40s," and my skin's still pretty good. So while the sun's good, burning's not. Like things like that. And I those sort of things in society now is people have putting sunscreen on as soon as they walk out. And the sun makes everything grow, our plants. But if a plant's put in the wrong position and gets too much sun, it dies. So bring everyone back a step or two rather than fearing things that we've been now led to believe are bad for us. Step back and think about a little bit more of common sense with some of the things that we do. And so things like a lot of people are bringing out now the difference between the saunas and cold baths, cold showers. I've read a book about centurions, on centurions, and a lot of them do the cold shower thing in the morning. And I've tried to do that.
That's a tough one to get into.
I just can't do it. I go in the ocean generally once a day, but here in California, the water's too cold. But I say the ocean is like an Epsom salt bath. So this is why surfers surf well into their 60s, 70s, 80s, and they lead a pretty unhealthy lifestyle because they're jumping in that Epsom salt bath and detoxifying every day. And so things like even read up about centurions, what they did in their life, And one of the oldest women to live, she's my idol, Janine, I think she's a French woman. And if I could live my life like her, she was not stressed. I think besides this part, she smoked till she was 110 until she dropped a cigarette and nearly burnt the house down. But she only had one other night. She had, I think, 3 ounces, a couple of ounces of chocolate every night, pure chocolate. She rode her bike everywhere. So that physical aspect of it as well was really, really important to her. And a few other things, obviously, in her lifestyle. But, she said stress was one of the major things, is that that if you can't change something, just laugh about it. And so I'm really trying to implement that as much as I can.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love all of those. You manage stress, sunshine, move your body, get into nature, whether it's the ocean or mountains or
Yes,
anywhere outside. Just put your feet on the ground, on the earth,
exactly.
and then eat healthy, and then positive thoughts.
Yes.
And what was the other one? Was there anyone I missed?
Well, I like to add coffee in there. No.
Okay, you're like me. Okay,
Coffee
you
and
are like me.
chocolate.
Yes, coffee and chocolate.
I have really tried to research to see how bad coffee is over the time. And because, I get DMs sometimes and people go, oh, you shouldn't be drinking coffee. You should be more
Mhm,
raw vegan. Imagine how amazing you could be. All these sort of things. And so I'll try things. And I didn't start drinking coffee until I was in my 30s.
mhm,
I was a tea drinker before then. And I don't feel like coffee has in any way made my life unhealthier. I try to stick to organic, and I think it's what we put in it or instant coffee, because
mhm,
the instant coffees are refined.
mhm.
So if you're getting a really good coffee bean and there's a lot of therapeutic benefits from it. So
Yeah, I support coffee too.
okay, we
Yeah,
support.
I'm with you there. Well, Chrissy, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking and giving us your insight. I found this conversation really great and
Thank you.
insightful, especially for anybody that is in the fitness industry currently or planning on getting into it. These are the types of conversations that I wish I could have listened to whenever I was
Yeah.
getting into it. So hopefully I know that people out there will appreciate the wisdom that you shared. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I really hope that there's someone out there that might have had that, pivotal moment effect of thinking a little bit more of their body as a whole, not just as an exterior.
Hmm.
Because I always like to say, like we always hear inside out and all those sort of things, but it
Hmm.
really is true that if you can think about anything you do to your body, as a whole, then we can't find shortcuts and we can't cheat ourselves. So, and look at it for the longevity and the
Hmm.
journey of it.
Yeah,
So,
it's the balance, right? It's like I can remember whenever I was competing as well.
yes,
I was really great on my physicality. Everything I was doing everything I could there, but then my spiritual, my emotional, my mental health, everything else was kind of taking a hit.
yes,
So there is an approach where you can find a more
balanced.
balanced approach towards fitness, wellness, all of it. But it's important to consider everything as a whole, like you said, and not just a narrow version of
Of it.
what you think health is. So
Yes. Yeah.
I
So
love everything you shared. Thank you so
thank
much,
you.
Chrissy.
Thank you
And
so
this was
much.
also her first podcast. So
My first podcast.
yeah, she did great. She did great. You crushed it. So where can we find you for people that want to connect with you or learn more about you?
Yeah, so I post a lot of stuff on my Instagram and my stories, and it's generally social media, and maybe in a country near or a town near you soon. Who knows?
Depending on whatever happens with the world
Whatever
and
happens,
yeah,
I'm open for
traveling.
the universe. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much again. And if you enjoyed this
lovely.
episode, please share it with somebody that you like. Maybe they would benefit from it. There could be some life changing advice in this conversation. And as always, sending each and every one of you lots of love and light.